package in the mail, MSX games from Japan. Collecting without fail, those shoot 'em ups, that's the plan. He doesn't just collect them, he also codes them too. Join us and we'll go on electric adventures with you.
Hey YouTube, Electric Adventures here with a response video to Novabugs' Friday Foursome. He does one of these once a month, so it's Friday Foursome number 24. And the question he's put out there for us to list our top 4 items is top 4 collecting goals. Now I've been collecting for quite some time, so I have a fairly extensive collection. I probably have slowed down quite a bit in my collection and collecting, and there are certain systems that I've started, like one you can see in the background there, like the Master System, and I've got up to, I'm looking at my notes, 263 titles out of a potential 301, I believe, in the world set. But you get to a stage where some of those titles, I sort of started out with the goal of collecting, a full set with those particular ones, but it's sort of waned. There still are a couple of titles I would like for it, but I'm not actively collecting for it anymore. So I thought I'd go through the 4 systems that I still am actively collecting for, and it's another excuse to point the camera at sections of the game room, which I have recently tidied up a bit as well, so it makes it a little bit more presentable. So let's grab the camera and go and look at what my top 4 are. Right, so here we go, set up in one part of the game room. We are looking at my current Atari Jaguar physical collection. So I actually have quite a decent collection of titles, and there are a couple of homebrew titles in there. So for a start, there are probably a couple more homebrew titles that I wouldn't mind adding to the collection, but I'd also like to continue to collect the original physical games. Now I do have most of the games that I prioritise to get, the ones that I really wanted to play. There are a few others along the right hand side here. I got a whole lot of empty boxes at one stage. So after the homebrew Xenon there, we have Ruiner Pinball, Fight for Life, Dragon, Budsby and Baldies. We also have Supercross 3D, Zoop, and a spare cannon fodder box. So they are all empty boxes. So at the very least, I would like to find, cartridges to fill those boxes. And I do have. I bought the boxes as like a separate lot, and I bought the box infills separately as well. So they're all in very good condition. I just need the cartridges. So I would like to finish off that collection by getting the rest of those loose titles, and there probably are a couple more titles that I'm missing from the collection. Will I get every title for the Jaguar? Possibly not. There were some stinkers released for the system, basically because people didn't spend the time properly converting games, so some titles were a little rushed. And I do have most of the games that were programmed properly. Obviously my favourites are Tempest and Aliens vs Predator, and there's been some quite decent homebrews come out as well. Commando's one of my favourite, and also Xenon. Alright, so that's number 4. Let's go on to number 3. Right, for number 3, we're looking at this section of the game room. Now, it's a very skinny, tall collection in its particular space, so I've zoomed out a little bit at the moment, but it's none other than my SG-1000, and also includes SC-3000. I've got a whole lot of tape titles for the SC-3000. All these games will work on the SC-3000 computers, as well as the original SG-1000 consoles. I have both multicarts, the original one that was released and the Mark II. The Mark II's in the actual system. So let's zoom in a little more. I am very, very close to completion of a full set. I currently have 83 titles. No homebrews. I've never seen any actual homebrews other than the multicarts come out for these. There are games on card and cartridge, and a couple of the games are released in both, and they're just about in all cases identical games, just different covers. There are a couple that are slightly different. And you know, it's quite a nice contained collection. It's taken me quite a while. So these are the titles in focus at the moment. They're all the card titles with a couple of cartridge titles in there. There's a couple more card titles on the next shelf down. And so I'm trying to use my stand view, guys, because I know how much my hands shake when I do these sort of videos. More of the cartridge games there, and as I said, most of them boxed. Now this next section up, I'm going to hold the camera up, I apologise. This next section up, so the ones with the red lettering are actually the Australian power releases. I believe I'm only missing one game that was released in Australia in the red one, but I'm not too much into duplicates with the system. I do have a couple. So I've got the large box one and the small box one I have in a couple of cases. And you can see a few more titles up there. The ones with the blue kanji writing to the right are actually the two educational Japanese release titles I've found. None of those are in any lists or anything like that of titles, so it's very hard to know how many of those there are, because they've all got product numbers on them, but you never know without seeing an actual catalogue whether or not the game was physically released. So I'll just set this down again. So just to show you what the titles are like, so here is a card title. So this is Hero. We've got quite nice art. A little tab that opens, and then you have the Sega My Card and the instruction manual. Now all of them are in that I've collected so far in pretty good condition. I have only got a couple that could do with a minor box upgrade. And you've got the small format boxes. This is Girls Garden, quite a good little game on the system. And then you have the larger box releases. So both the Japanese and the PAL territory ones are the same, just different coloured writing. But as you can see, this has even got a kanji manual as well, so even the manual is shared. And that's the larger releases, and they sometimes have a screenshot on the back. Alright, so that's my number 3 pick. Let's move on. I'll just give you a wider view of that again. Let's move on to number 2. Alright, so I have to squeeze back a little bit here to get the whole thing in, but this is my ColecoVision boxed game collection, both including original games and homebrew games. It's the one system where I actively keep up with the homebrews as they come out, mostly. You know, budget does come into these sort of things, and they can add up a bit. But there's been some fantastic homebrew releases for the system, but there's also the original games, and there are some very, very good fantastic original games for the system. And so one of my main collecting goals is to continue to get the rest of the original titles. Come in a little bit closer. So these the first shelf and a half, all the way up to, you can see one called Moto Racer, which is there. They are all the original titles that I have so far. I do have some loose ones down here that I would like to, you know, maybe get boxes for one day. But as I said, I'm not actively searching for these. I just go and have a look occasionally, and you know, add one more title here and there. Obviously, I have been actively getting the homebrew games, you know, it's just a system that I'm quite passionate about from back in the day. Very similar to the MSX machines that I grew up with, and also the ColecoVision was one of the systems that that was available for sale in the store that I used to work for. So I played it a lot back in the day. I had the Coleco adapter for my original Spectravideo computer, so it was probably my one main home video game console, so I have a lot of passion for it. So there you go. Goal number 2 is to finish off my set of ColecoVision original titles and continue to add to the homebrews as they come out. Alright, so off we go to number 1, and I'm sure a lot of you can guess what it's going to be. Okay, so it'll come as no surprise to a lot of people that my number 1 system that I collect titles for, and continue to collect titles for, is the MSX range of computers. And I have quite a lot of them, so just move over here a little bit. I've left my list over here. A couple of different angles while I do it. So I have 369 MSX1 titles, 59 MSX2 titles, and 1 MSX2 Plus specific title. I have another title that works on both. That's Space Bambo, and it's better played on MSX2 Plus, but I count it in the MSX2 games. I do have some homebrew titles, which are mainly up here, as well as a couple of the games I wrote for the system as well. There's titles from all different manufacturers. I've got a few subsets working along here, so these are the Sony small box release titles. A couple I don't have boxes for. I'm not 100% sure this Galforce might actually be a large box Sony title. Sony had large box titles as well. They're down, so I am running out of space here a little bit. So on this particular shelf here, if I remove those, you can see my Sony large box titles there, and I am missing a couple of them. You can see I've sort of put titles together, so there are a whole lot of Kumo ones I got recently. Kumar. Of course you have all the titles released by Konami for the MSX. I don't have all of those in box, but I have a fair few of them. And there's lots of nice little oddities and things like that. So you've got the B card titles. There's some original B card ones in box. Of course you have the titles I released for the system. Then I've got a whole lot of loose cartridges as well. So I do have most of the Konami titles. I just don't have the boxes for all of them. But you get them and you slowly upgrade them. Recently I got this Cuba title and manual, no box, but that's pretty cool. And then you have the Capcom titles. They come in these type boxes. So I've got, what's that, 4 in box and more loose titles down there. There's a couple more Sony titles there that I have loose. So it's a wonderful system to collect for. Down the bottom there is a whole lot of RPGs. And over here we have a whole lot of Mastertronics. These releases are Spanish releases, I believe. Then you've got the ones that came out in the Netherlands, but from Acosoft. Lots of different sub-collections inside the MSX collection. All the Casio titles. You saw a whole lot of loose Casio titles there. This is what their boxing looked like. They've got big boxes and small boxes. Lots and lots of different sub-collections. Even down to ASCII themselves had boxes like this. They also had different formats as well. Jalco titles. Lots and lots of different ones. Activision actually produced cartridge version of their games, and then you have the tape versions that were released in the PAL territories as well. So I do actually have most of them in cartridge as well as tape. So it's just a system I really like collecting the titles for. I've slowed right down because they don't come up very often, and they're going for a lot of money. So you know, budget has to come into it somewhere. But I'm very lucky that I got some of the titles that I got at particular times. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this response video to Novabugs Friday Foursome number 24, top 4 collecting goals. What are your top 4 collecting goals? Put them down below, make your own video, or also make sure you go and check out Novabugs' original video as well. I'm fairly late in the month here. You've got to the end of the month to get your responses in, but why not have a go? Alright, I'm Electric Adventures. Thanks to all my subscribers, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.